name is Jennifer Lont. I'm a Homeworks by Precept consultant, and today I would like to talk to you about how to teach English to your advanced student. First, let me say that there are some extra activities built into the video courses for secondary students. So if your child does well with a regular curriculum, you might want to consider adding on these additional activities for diagramming or a challenge test each chapter. If you're doing parent-led, you can find the support materials CD in the back of your teacher's edition, and that should give you some extra activities that you can use to challenge your child. And then if your child does well with the grammar and the writing, then you might want to consider teaching your child more speaking and presentation skills. But for this video, what I'd like to focus on is teaching the writing process to your child in elementary school. There are some things that I have learned over the past 9 years, and I'd like to share that with you because I know that can be a source of frustration for both advanced students and their parents. BJU Press Homeschool English teaches grammar, and then it teaches your child how to use it. So you'll have a grammar chapter followed up by a writing chapter. Your child will learn when he is young to use a subject and a predicate to make a complete thought. So a young child might write a sentence like, "Mom made a cake." Later, your child will learn what adjectives are. And so whenever it's time to do writing again, you can teach your child to look for nouns that they can describe with adjectives. So your child might change "Mom made a cake" to "Mom made my birthday cake." And then as your child learns more parts of speech, such as prepositional phrases and adverbs and dependent clauses, different structures, then the sentence may sound more like, "Mom carefully cut and frosted my birthday cake so that it looked like an F-22 Raptor." Before all of that complexity is added in, your child needs to be able to know what to write. His first job is to be able to get his basic thoughts down on paper. In kindergarten, we ask our children leading questions so that they know what to write. We might say, "What did we do in the kitchen today?" "We made no-bake cookies." "What did we do first?" "We melted butter in a pot." But in first grade, your child will learn to start to plan what he is going to write himself. This is the first step in the process of writing. When I was in elementary school and I was given a writing assignment, I would sit there and I would think about it until I had the perfect composition in my head, and I wouldn't write anything down until I was ready to write, and then I didn't change it much. Do not let your children write like this. Your children need to be able to get down their basic ideas, organize them, and then move on and improve them. So in BJU Press Homeschool English classes, your children will be taught to make graphic organizers and Venn diagrams and use outlines and do all sorts of different planning to help them prepare for the assignments that they are going to write. Model the planning stage for your child, and then together you can work at drafting complete sentences from it. Then your child will use that example as he works on his own composition on his own topic. Some kids will get stuck right there though, whenever it's time for them to work on their own projects. Advanced students do not like to fail, and so sometimes they have a hard time getting started because they don't want to do a poor job. Encourage your child that the drafting process is just turning what we wrote on the planning stage into complete sentences. Some kids will struggle with creative writing, but they may excel at writing essays in science, and that's okay. We still need to work at all these different skills. Tell your child that it does not matter if the draft is bad. You will be revising it later. You will help your child fix it later. For right now, in the drafting stage, all he needs to do is take those thoughts from the planning paper and turn them into complete sentences. And then also, Make sure your child skips a space between each line as he writes so that you do have room for the next stage, which is revising. It's actually possible for your child to get so focused on what he wrote in the planning stage that he loses some of the rich vocabulary and imagination that he usually displays. So sit down with your child. Take his story or composition and read it out loud to him. Just hearing it may trigger some ideas for rewording what he wrote. Make sure you point out the good parts and then ask for clarification for the parts that need further explanation. Just speaking back and forth out loud about the composition might help your child to find the right words to say. And once you've said them aloud, give him a chance to write them down. Another thing that you can do in order to help him come up with details to add is use your imagination together. Pretend that you are there in the setting of the story where his writing is taking place. And then that can give you sensory details. What did things look like and smell like and even taste and feel like? And he can add those into his story. Writing is not just about creativity though. It's also about using the English language with skill. So as you're doing the revising process, teach your child to look for some things that he has just learned, a new skill that he can practice in that particular composition. For example, if you just did a chapter about verbs, have your child look for the verbs that he used and see if he can make them stronger or more vivid to help the reader picture what is going on. You need to hold your child accountable for the grammar he has learned in previous chapters and in previous years, but keep it positive. No one's perfect. We all make mistakes. Just make sure that you're always moving forward and learning new skills. And helping your child learn these skills in elementary school will help him to be able to do it later on his own. One of the ways that I have found that has helped us somewhat with the writing process, with the revising part, is to use small sticky notes. So as we talk about something that needs to be changed, we might put a sticky note right there on the page. For example, if something needs a little clarification, we might write why and put that sticky note right there on the page. Or if my son finds a verb that he thinks is weak and he wants to replace it but is not quite sure what verb he wants to use instead, he might just write verb on the sticky note and put it on the page. And then later, as he moves through those and makes changes, he can take those notes off and throw them away. In my opinion, the revising stage is the hardest part of the writing process because your child may not want to change anything. And if that's the case, tell your child what I always told my boys. The wise listen to instruction and are wiser still. Those who are truly God's children listen to biblical counsel and parental guidance, and that even includes homeschooling. If your child does get bogged down with the revising stage, it's possible to stretch it out over several days so it's not so overwhelming all at once. Maybe you can start the next grammar chapter so that you don't fall behind, and then just do a little bit of revising each day, maybe focusing on just one kind of correction. And then seeing the writing day after day, sometimes your child will be able to come up with some changes on his own because he's seeing it with fresh eyes each day. When my boys got older, they began typing their work after they had revised it. This did a couple things for them. One, it was good typing practice. And two, then the computer would highlight any mistakes that they made. I did not mind them having this help because they typically didn't make very many spelling or grammar or punctuation errors. So I would go ahead and let them type, and then they would learn to fix anything right then and there during the writing process before they turned it in, which is really what we want them to do in real life anyways, is to catch mistakes before they turn it in. So then they would print out their final copy, I would print out the rubric, and then they would compare the two. They would make sure that they had completed all of the requirements on the rubric, and then they would look at their final copy to see if they had any typos or formatting issues or things like that. After they fixed those mistakes, they would print 2 copies. We kept one of those copies clean, and the other copy I would use to write on whenever I corrected their work. A long time ago, I told my boys about a high school English teacher that I had. When she would return my writing assignments to me, I was shocked at first because it looked like her red pen had bled all over my paper. And most teachers would just give me an A and move on, but this teacher cared enough that she made sure that I was always learning something new. I don't remember her ever giving me a bad grade, but I do remember that she wrote comments on my papers, and her comments didn't tear me down. They actually were exciting to me after a while because I was learning new things. I was learning more skills. So I bring this up to encourage you that it doesn't matter if you're writing on your child's paper, if you're making comments. I don't even think it matters if you use a red pen. What matters is your tone and your motive. Does your child know that you are for him? Does your child know that you do what you do in order to help him? Your job is to nurture a writer. It's true that advanced students can be perfectionists who see mistakes as failures. They have really high expectations for themselves. And sometimes as parents, we have very high expectations for our children. I'm not saying that high expectations are wrong, but sometimes we go too far with them. So if you haven't already, sit down and have a heart-to-heart with your child, especially if you've had contention during the writing process. Apologize and grant forgiveness. Explain to your child that you are on his side and that you want to teach him in a way that helps him use and improve his skills for God's glory. Emphasize growth, not perfectionism. Teach with kindness. Model patience and model the right attitude so that your child can imitate you. With God's help, I know that you can do this.